Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. You're watching the Mixtape Fiber Arts vlog. I'm Jennifer. Today we are going to be covering, of course, what I'm wearing, what I've been working on. I've made some yarn on a drop spindle for the first time ever, so we're going to look at that. And then, of course, we're going to cover some life. So stick around. Thank you guys so much for joining me back today. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more tutorials that come up and keep up what's going on with Mixtape, make sure you hit subscribe and like. I really appreciate it. It helps the channel a ton so more people can see us and find out what's going on. So anyway, let's hop right into what I am wearing, of course. So this is Starting Point by Hohilo Gatelli. It was one of my first patterns I ever knit. Now this is actually the second one of these that I've knit. And I really enjoyed this pattern. I think it was a great beginner pattern to introduce me to a lot of pretty basic stitches, but in a way that looks, you know, really nice and fancy. It's got some lace in there that hopefully you can see. And it's a fade, or at least that's how I chose to do mine. And you actually start at each end down here, and then you knit to the center, and then you make a second panel and start at the end and knit to the center, and then you stitch the two together by picking up stitches. So it really does teach a ton of techniques all in one pattern, and she has it very well written. A lot of people have made it, so you can find a ton of examples out there of it, and I love it. I'm not going to keep it on right now because it's actually pretty warm in here already, but I did want to show you something that I had made so you could have something to go look up and maybe knit for yourself. So today's episode is a lot of life update because I have a lot going on. I'm also considering making the vlog, and I know I said I wouldn't do this, but I may move it to one episode a month. The amount of knitting I'm able to produce now that I'm working full-time has really shrank for obvious reasons. And I want to make sure I have actually something to show you guys. I don't want to just come up here and talk. And so I've had a hard time keeping up with my other knitting vlogs that I watch. So I know what's going on in our fiber art spaces, and I've had a hard time just fitting in time to knit without being totally exhausted. That may change once I'm used to working again, but for now I've had a hard time fitting in the knitting. So anyway, I don't have a ton to show today. I have worked on the Hyber knit along more, but I didn't bring it to show you because the progress on it is so small compared to the last vlog. You won't even be able to see what I've done different. So hopefully next episode I'll be able to show that to you, and it'll have a lot more work done on it than it does right now. However, I did finish the potholder pattern, the coaster pattern and the placemat pattern that I was going to put up for free on Ravelry and on the website. So let me grab some of that. Okay, so here are a couple examples of just the little slip stitch coasters. I hope you can see them. They're really cute. They will hold up to your washer and dryer if you use 100% cotton yarn. You can use acrylic for these. Acrylic does repel water some. And you can put acrylic through the washer and dryer, you wouldn't be able to like switch these out to use as a face cloth as well. You wouldn't be able to use them as a trivet if you wanted to use them as a trivet on your table to put hot stuff on when you pull it out of the oven. And you definitely don't want to use them to pull anything out of the oven unless you are using a natural fiber like cotton or wool. And you definitely don't want to send 100% wool through the washer and dryer. Since I use this stuff for kitchen items and food items, and maybe in the bathroom for like face scrubs. I almost always use cotton for these. That way I know if something gets spilt on them or, you know, potentially will stain them, I can actually clean them in a way that will get them super clean, and I don't have to worry about destroying them in the process. So the pattern is it makes 4 of these, and it takes very little cotton to produce these. So you can get 4 out of one ball easily. And then here's the matching placemat. And this is just kind of your standard size placemat. And it's, oh, you know, you follow the pattern. They're almost the exact same, just a different shape. And again, with these, you literally, if something's food spills on them, if somebody tips a drink over on them, you can just throw them in the washer and dryer and you should be good to go. This has not been through the laundry yet, so it will tighten up some. It will be a little stiffer than this. It is cotton, so you know it will shrink a little, but that's a good thing. I think it's a little loosey-goosey right now, and it will tighten up some in the dryer. So and it will only do that once. It won't shrink over and over and over again. Just run it through hot if you're using 100% cotton, and it will tighten up, and then that'll be done with it. If you are worried about having younger kids, like a toddler, use these placemats, or really any cloth placemats. You can buy that it's grippy plastic stuff. I'll find a picture of it and put it in here so you can see what I'm talking about. But you can buy this grippy plastic stuff that just rolls out. Cut it into the shape and size of the placemat, and when you guys go to eat, lay that down, lay the placemat on top of it, and that'll keep everything from sliding around. Typically not a problem with older kids and adults, but if you're worried about a toddler, you know, being messy or not paying attention, it will keep it from sliding around. And then when you guys are done with dinner, you can just pull it up and throw these in the washer, roll up the grip plastic that you had underneath it, or the grip rubber you had underneath it, and set it aside for the next time you eat, and all will be well. So that's just my suggestion. If you are wanting to use placemats and you haven't done it in the past for some reason, I think these are ideal for setting out on a picnic table or a patio table where you're going to have things sweating in the summer with condensation. These would be perfect for that. You should, unless your plates are just giant, be able to fit your silverware and your plate and your drink all on this one placemat. If you can't, of course, then you can always use your coasters, but they should all fit. So the title of these on Ravelry are Simple Slip Stitch Coaster, and these are Simple Slip Stitch Placemat. And there's not a lot of competition for this kind of stuff in knit. There's a lot of crochet placemats and a lot of crochet coasters that are out there already. There actually isn't a ton under knitting, because knitting tends, I guess, on Ravelry to just be a lot more garments. So if you're wanting something easy to practice with, these will be out there. They will be free. They will also be on my website at www.mixedtapefiberarts.com for free. And I hope you enjoy them and you can knit them for spring and use them in this coming up summer. So that's mainly all my knitting, guys. I knit this. I finished the coasters and wove in the ends, and I did work on the pattern some so it would be ready for you guys, but that's the bulk of my knitting. It's the sock I had been working on. I didn't bring it with me either because it just didn't make a ton of progress on it. It did get a little bit of love. It may have grown by ½ an inch, but not enough that makes it worthy to bring on here and talk about. But I did spend so much time on this that I was super sore, and I learned a lesson, and I will not do that again. And that is practicing with my drop spindle. So if you watched the last episode, you will know that my father made me a drop spindle for my birthday, which was in December. And I'm so happy with it. It's so much work, you guys, so much work. Definitely not something you just pick up and are automatically good at. And if you are, then that is a talent that you were gifted at birth. But this is the yarn I have made. I don't know if you can see that. Let me try and get a little closer. So, this took an incredible amount of time because I'm doing a method that's basically spinning it and then parking it between my knees and wrapping it in. And every time I need to either pull more wool out to feed the drop spindle or wrap it, I have to completely stop it and hold the drop spindle between my knees, wrap it around the drop spindle, pick it back up again and go. I can't just spin it and feed the yarn and feed the wool at the same time. Drafting is what that's called. Draft the wool at the same time and just let it spin. It's going to take a lot more practice than that. I am pleased, however, at how this looks. I have a ton more of it I can make because I have a lot of wool, and I did this in 2 chunks. The first time I did it, it was pretty uneven. There was some super, super thin yarn and some really chunky spots. But the second time I did it, it evened out a lot more. And I'm really hoping it continues to even out a lot more as I practice. But this will be a slow going hobby for me for sure, because I have to build up some muscles in my shoulders for when I'm holding all this up. I spent so long doing that over this past weekend just to get this that I could hardly move. I could move, but it hurt. It really hurt the next day because I'm not used to doing that. It's not something that my body has built up the muscle strength for. I mean, I sit all day and I type, or I sit all day and I knit. I usually don't have my arm, suspended in front of me like this. So, I'm going to continue to work on this also, but I do want to finish my Hyber knit-along shawl, the Glow Hair Frost shawl, because I need to get some summer tanks and stuff on my needles, and I don't like having those big projects going, 2 of them at the same time. So, especially with how expensive some of that yarn cost for the Glow Hair Frost shawl. So I want to get that off my needles and work on this a little bit more so I can continue improving, but not at the rate that I just did this past weekend. It was too much. And then start probably a tank or a tee, so I can wear them for work. I will show you the wool that I've been using for this. This I have been using, here it is all pulled out of its hank. Uh-oh, the cat has noticed it. Benny, let go. Okay. He really wants to play with it. I shouldn't have done that. But this is what it looks like all pulled out. So you just feed it like this as it spins on the drop spindle. And that's how I'm getting the colors I'm getting. This is Sweet Georgia yarns. They sell wool like this, and it's Corriedale. And I did some research on this before I got this. So it is 100% wool. It will be difficult probably for me to find something to make with it in the thickness that it is. It's probably a worsted weight. In reality, that's what it's going to be. And if I ply it with another strand, it's going to end up being bulky, which is not very Arizona friendly at all. So it will either become an item that I gift to somebody that's farther north, or I'm just gonna have to do a lot of thinking about what to make with it so it actually gets used, because it's also 100% wool, which means it's going to have to be well taken care of to not get destroyed. So we'll see. But at any rate, this is 100% Corriedale. It's called Grouse, is the color name, and it is from Sweet Georgia Fibers / Yarns. They do both. And I picked Corriedale because it has a very long staple length, and I read that that helps when you are learning how to spin, because you don't have to draft as often if you have a long staple length. The staple length is how long each chunk of the sheep's hair was, or wool was, before, you know, you're feeding into the next length of wool. So it's a very, it's soft, but it's not, I would still call it toothy. It's definitely, some people would have issues with this being directly against their skin for sure. I think I would be okay with it as a hat. I probably wouldn't want it as a scarf. It would probably make great felted mittens if you lived in a climate that needed mittens, which I don't, but at any rate, I think it's going to hold up really well once I, you know, as far as strength goes, once I make something with it or have enough to make something with it, which will be quite some time. But all of the wool I bought was the same color. And I have two, so I have 3 of these. I have 2 more in addition to this one, plus that little bit I just showed you that I haven't even spun yet. So I will have enough of this to do something with. I just don't know what it's going to be. So that's all my knitting. That's my knitting updates. It's so little compared to what I used to get done in a week when I wasn't working. But, you know, I needed a job and that's life. So we have caught up to life. If you want to stick around for the life update, you're welcome to stay. If you were just here for the knitting, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you come back and watch again and see the progress. I hope you leave a comment and tell me what you're working on. I love reading them and when people leave them. And I'll see you next time if you're not sticking around. Thanks. If you're sticking around, let's talk about how my job is going. It's going fantastic. I do love everyone I'm working with. I love that it's remote and I get to stay in the comfort of the house all day. I don't have to deal with traffic. I will say this first week, though, this is the first whole week, and it has been like a fire hose of information at my face all day. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just they have a lot that needs to get done. I have a lot to learn about I have a lot to learn about my new position. And so, you know, understandably all day, since this is a fully remote position, I am on Zoom and am just constantly taking in new information. So by the end of the day, I am done. Like, my brain is completely done. I have been getting dinner made every night. A kid has gotten to robotics between myself and the help of my husband and the help of our son. So, you know, life has continued to go on. It hasn't, of course, crashed down just because I'm mentally exhausted at the end of the day. But I literally go to bed at probably no later than 8:30 every night. I am asleep at the latest by 9 or 9:30 every night. And I just have, my brain is just in full reset mode at that point. It just has to think. Yeah, like I can feel the cogs doing this. Processing all of the information that I took in and learned that day about the new job. So I do think it's going fantastic, though. Like I said, I really enjoy what I'm doing. I work in accounting, and I enjoy the people I'm working with. And so once things settle down and I'm out of constant learning mode, now we're always learning, but this is at a rate where I wouldn't say is sustainable long term. It's definitely sustainable for the next few months, but hopefully it slows down a little bit so I can just get into the rhythm of the position and get stuff done for people and help them out with their books. So anyway, it's going really well. As you know, I had talked about hunting for a house, and I said, "Ooh, we found the house," and we did, but it's not the house that I initially talked about on the last episode. So the house we were looking at on the last episode was, like I said, it was perfect. I thought it was the perfect house for us. But it was also $20,000 more than what was, it was really pushing our budget, like really pushing our budget. And when we finally got down to the point where we were looking at what the monthly payments would be on it and how much down payment we could make and that kind of stuff, like the really nitty gritty stuff of financing and the loans, it was just going to be, it was not in our comfort zone. It was one of those issues where, like, you know, technically we could afford it, but we're not comfortable affording it because life happens, and we're old enough now that we have some wisdom behind us to know we need some cushion to ride out life. We don't want to be people who think we can make it, buy the house, lose it in 6 months because we have some emergency and then we can't make the payments for some reason. So we pulled out of the bids for that. There were actually 3 other families who put in offers on that house. We were coming in second. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, we can't raise, we're not going to be able to raise what we will offer. So we just decided, no, we've got to find something else. It's not going to work. So we have found something else. And ultimately, I think it's probably better in the long run anyway. My husband and I are both really happy with this house. It's kind of a weird mesh of, like, the layout is a weird mesh of Arizona meets Midwest. And I know that's very hard to explain. If I get a chance here in the next few episodes, when it's empty, I'll give you a little tour of the inside of it. But most of the layouts here in Arizona of houses are a giant open floor plan. Like, you walk in and you'll be in a giant rectangular square, and it's a kitchen with a floating island. A lot of them have very little cabinet space. The fridge, and then it goes directly into the living room. 0 walls, 0 division. The only dividing line between those spaces would be the floating island. And then a lot of people, of course, everything here tends to be tile except for in the bedrooms. And that's because of all the dust and the allergens that can cause tiles much easier to upkeep. So a lot of people will put down a big area rug in the living area space, or the living room space, to kind of like designate this is the living room space from this is the kitchen space. Which is very different than how a lot of Midwest houses are set up. And that you might have an open floor plan, but there's typically like some little pieces of wall in between, even if they're just floating on the edges. You usually go from tiled area or some kind of other pergo or something like that onto a carpeted area, and a lot of the older houses that weren't built as, big open spaces in the Midwest, you can't even see into the kitchen from the living room. So this is built so that it definitely has a kitchen area. It definitely has a living room area. It's still open though, but it kind of makes an L from the kitchen to the living room. It's a little hard to explain. The master's on one end. It's 4-bedroom. The other, it's technically 4 bedrooms. There is a den with double doors and a closet off of the living room that close, of course. And because it has a closet, it's considered a bedroom. So it's 4-bedroom, 2-bath. The bedrooms are on one side of the house. The master bedroom is on the other side of the house. We will have a master bath, of course. Most of the houses out here have that. Unlike the Midwest, a lot of 4-bedroom house plans in the Midwest do not have a master bath because you're sacrificing space for that other bedroom. But the houses out here do tend to include that in the square footage. So I will have an office and yarn area, which is super exciting because I haven't fully decided which of these bedrooms I'm going into yet. I have a good idea, but I don't want to say anything until I've really decided. Obviously, that den area seems like it would be one of the best spaces to go into, but at the same time, it's also right next to the front door. It's right next to the living room. It's going to pick up a lot more noise than some of the other spaces in the house. So I may choose a different area than that. All of them have a closet for what's no doubt going to be my giant yarn stash, which I'm sure I will do an episode on when I go to unpack it. It's all in storage right now in Ziploc bags. I tried to catalog it before I moved out here so I would know what was in what bag. So that'll be an entertaining episode if you're around for it for sure when I go to unpack that stuff, because I know I've forgotten half the stuff I have. So it'll be exciting and also probably overwhelming at the exact same time, because we've had a lot of stuff in storage for almost 2 years now, probably. Yeah, 2 years. So getting into all that stuff again and going, oh, I remember this, or I completely forgot that I even bought this, is going to happen. So we've actually put down the escrow funds. They're in holding right now. We're under contract for this one, so it will be our house unless something happens on the seller's end that falls through. I don't have a timeline right now. The realtor and the lender both said usually max 45 days, probably within 30. 30 is the usual turnaround time. It is dependent on the people who are currently in the home buying their other home. So I wouldn't be surprised if we fall into the 45-day mark. They have a family. They have a lot of stuff they're going to need to get out of the house. So luckily we're in the position where we're not getting kicked out of anywhere. So we can kind of make it comfortable for everybody because of that. And it's only a few minutes from where we are at right now. I think on Google Maps, it's like an 8-minute drive from where we're at right now. And that's with some stoplights. So we will be able to just casually move our things like we were going to be able to do with the other house. We will be able to casually move our things from this house to the other house. We won't have to spend a bunch of money on moving trucks and stuff like that. So I think it's going to work out great. I'm going to have an office because right now the space my desk is in is not the greatest. I'm going to have a space for my yarn. My husband's going to have a space for his hobby, and my daughter's going to have her own room back. So this is great. I'm super excited about it. It's also overwhelming to be taking on a house payment again and home ownership after this long of a break. I have to admit it was kind of nice not having to deal with all the things that come along with, all the bills and dealing with things that come with owning a house. But it's time. So anyway, that's a huge life update for me. My daughter's driving lessons are going well, but they are kind of amusing. She came in the other day and she said, I said, how did it go when she got back in from her driving instructor? And she said, the curb was in her way. She's not the best, apparently, at judging turning. And this was only her second lesson. And otherwise, she's doing extremely well. And really, this was in a different vehicle than she practiced in last time, too. So, judging how large your vehicle is and how it takes turns and how the brakes feel, those are going to change from vehicle to vehicle. And when you're first learning to have that changing up, I'm sure is a little more daunting than when you're a practice driver on top of that. But I guess she took a turn too wide or too narrow and she hit the curb coming into our subdivision, which happened to be right by the mailboxes. So thankfully she didn't hit the mailboxes. I asked her what made her so nervous. She got really nervous is what happened. There was somebody behind her that was pretty close to what, the car she was driving. There was somebody on the sidewalk that was right next to them coming into the subdivision. So she got really scared. She didn't want to hit anybody when she, and then, so she had somebody behind her. She had somebody on the sidewalk. She knew that making turns were not her strongest point at this point in her learning. So she kind of freaked out is what happened. And I think the driving instructor does have his own set of pedals. But I think, at the speed they were going to make the turn, I don't think he realized soon enough what was going to happen until she hit the curb. So at any rate, it's going to be fine. But I'm so glad that we are able to have somebody else teach her how to do this, because I would have been a mess. I would have been such a mess. My husband, I think, is going to take her out. He has, this is his Friday is today. Well, This is Saturday. Tomorrow will be his first day off. He gets 3 days off in a row because he works 4 days and has 3 off. He's going to take her to practice some more because, of course, she can't just do this 2.5 hour chunk a week and expect to learn how to drive. So he's going to take her out to practice, and hopefully there'll be some improvement on that front. But hearing her come in and say what she has to say about going is always amusing. It's amusing to me, and I'm always grateful that we were able to have somebody else teach her this that has the skills and the appropriate car, because I mean, if we were teaching her, we'd be in town on empty streets or parking empty parking lots, because he has the appropriate vehicle with the second set of pedals to slow her down if he needs to, or that kind of stuff. They're able to go into more populated areas and get on one of the main, it's not an interstate, it's just a two lane in each direction highway that's near. It's not even a highway. The speed limit on it's 50, but everybody goes like 65 or 70. If you go 50, you're going to really get run over, and nobody gets pulled over for going probably 60, 65 and under. You're not going to get pulled over. So he takes her out on there, and these are things that I wouldn't be comfortable taking her to do, because I just don't have the ability to make the car stop if it needs to stop, or speed up if somebody's really coming up behind us fast because she's going the speed limit and nobody else does. That kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what's been happening. I work all day. I knit when I can at Robotics, and last weekend I spent a big chunk of the weekend spinning and writing up the patterns for the placemat and the coasters, so they'd be up there for you guys when this vlog releases, which is today, Sunday. So again, that pattern is completely free. Go grab it and practice. If you had used the knitting tutorials that I had put out a few weeks ago on how to cast on, how to bind off, how to do the knit stitch, how to do the purl stitch using the continental knitting method, and the Norwegian purl is almost the exclusive purl that I use for the most part. So the purling video is actually Norwegian purl held continental. Go check those out. These patterns, these free patterns that I'm putting out, that they're actually coming out today with this video, are the perfect practice for those stitches. And if you're struggling with purling, you need to know that these patterns are mostly knitting. So you're going to get a lot of purling, a lot of knit stitch practice, but there is enough purling in there to give you practice without it becoming extremely frustrating, because all of these ridges right here, they're actually a slip stitch on the front of your work. And then when you get to them on the back of your work, you're going to do a purl stitch every time you come to this stitch in your pattern. On the back, they're a purl, and on the front, they're a slip. So, and then all of the other stitches in this entire pattern, are knit. So you can cast on with any cast on you want. You bind off in pattern, which means you're just going to do the stitch you did before and then put that over the top of the other one. There's a video on how to bind off in my tutorials. So at any rate, I encourage you to do that. If you do, please put up pictures. If you have a Ravelry account, please tag MixedTapeFiberArts. I would love to see the colors you've picked, how you're using them, if you enjoyed it. So let me know. And I think that's going to wrap everything up for today, guys. I have a really busy day ahead. I've got to make some grocery lists. Potentially I need to go shopping. I don't know if that's going to happen today because I think we plan on going shopping tomorrow. And I already have dinner planned for tonight. We're having chicken puttanesca. I can puttanesca sauce. And we have a lot of jars of puttanesca sauce right now. So we're going to have chicken puttanesca for dinner. And I have all the stuff for that. So I might refrain from grocery shopping today and do all of it tomorrow. But I also need to edit this vlog. and get it ready for YouTube. And I need to do a few things on these patterns still to get them ready for release with the vlog. So I do have quite a busy day today. And if I have time, I really want to knit some more on my glue hair frost shawl. So let me know how you guys are doing. I hope you have a great couple weeks. If for some reason I am not here in 2 weeks, I will definitely be back at the end of February. I'm going to try and keep it to every 2 weeks, but if I really don't have enough stuff to show you, then I may not, or I may stick in a shorter episode, just focusing on one single fiber arts thing. That's more of a 15-minute kind of deal instead of talking about all the things I've been working on, knitting and all of that with a big life update at the end. So if I'm not here in 2 weeks, it's just because I've been super busy and I don't have very much to show you. I will for sure be back at the end of February though. So thank you guys again, and I will see you later.